they had this whole myth in Telugu that I was unlucky because my first 2 films didn't work. But they didn't realize that the first 2 films had the same hero. When my mom decided to leave, I learned that you can go from Mercedes to local train like really quick in life.
What would you tell your younger self today?
That don't get confused, you're actually getting it right. You cannot figure him out. That's the best part about him. He's a mix of so many great qualities, you know. I think strength comes from developing a toolkit and understanding your vulnerabilities versus trying to overcome them. And that's why when people say, oh, which number boyfriend is this? You're not understanding that for you it's a number. For me, it's a number of times I failed at having the love I want.
Hi, I'm in conversation with someone who I have special and very deep affection for. She's an accomplished singer, an accomplished actor, and most importantly, a wonderful human being. I'm in conversation with Shruti Haasan. Thank you, Shruti, for being part of this.
What a formal introduction. You should see the messages he sends me.
To begin with, my most favorite question. What would you tell your younger self today?
That don't get confused, you're actually getting it right. Yeah.
Can you give me like an example where you...
He told me before the interview starts, this is how you do it. These are good anecdotes. And this look is, it's not a good anecdote.
No. But like, give me an example where you felt...
I think in general, in terms of like, you know, everyone comes with a sort of brand of spirit, like who you are inside. And the world has this beautiful ability of being able to nurture it, but also being able to rub it down to a nub and make it nothing. And I think we all kind of manage in between. When I was younger, I think my fire was like super strong and super weirdly colored and different. And I should have stayed true to those little ideas I had that, no, ye mere liye sahi hoga, I should not deviate from this. And there was just so much in these echoes of people saying this is not the way, this is not the thing. Okay, and then I just kind of got lost and then found myself again. Like I always say, till date, I'm so angry that my first Filmfare, because you know, my dad had so many of them, and I used to like practice with it, and I used to be like, I'm going to get one. And when I got it, they convinced me to wear a pink Manish Malhotra sari, and till date, I regret it, because I would have wanted that to be in forever and posterity in black. Because that's what I loved then, and I've come right back to it. Like, very bad luck, don't wear like that. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm already pretending I don't want to wear pink, you know? So, just silly things like that. But when it all accumulates, I would say, don't change, you're on the right path.
Were you like, I mean, the cliche is rebel without a cause, but were you rebelling because you were unhappy with certain things going around in your life, or like from the beginning as a child, like you've always told me you had this, if somebody said don't do it, you would 100% do it.
Yeah.
So did you have that, it just happened, it's just that it's a part of your personality?
Well, my parents say that from childhood, I was quite, why? Don't do this, but why? So that more than no, it was why. So, and I'm still like that. I need a reason and I need logic, and then I like flow like a river. Otherwise, it's just like when I walked and you were like, hey, paveko, mama. You know? So I don't know why. I still don't know why I have that rebellious streak. I think it comes from a place of emotion and childhood. And I think for all of us, the way we react, doesn't matter how old we get, if we really trace it back, it goes back to something we felt about feeling unseen or misunderstood, that we all react in different ways. And my way has always been rebellion. And
you use the word, you felt misunderstood?
Yeah, I still do.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is not to praise you, but I really find you extremely, what's the word? Stoic.
Oh, I thought
stoic.
I thought I find you extremely chaku.
No, I find you very stoic despite all your rebellion. There is a certain resilience in you which is beautiful. And how did that resilience come about?
Life.
Yeah.
Life. I mean, yeah, I think I'm a weird mix of like being very anchored and also being like on top, So it depends on the day. It depends. I'm a very energy sensitive person, so it depends on that. But yeah, I do feel misunderstood because even now, after all these years, when people meet me and say, "We didn't know you'll be like this," and I'm like, "So, what do you mean exactly?" So I've still not understood what that is, but it's okay. It's fine.
I'll come back to all of that later, your childhood and your first film and all of that.
Gee.
I'm very keen to know about your Hollywood venture first because it's also like an all-woman
Yes.
crew and all of that.
Yes.
You want to talk about the eye?
So the first ever thing that I did is, and I have to say this, and they'll say Nepo baby and all, and I'll openly say this: I'm not good at auditioning, and I didn't audition for my first film. I don't know how they didn't audition me. They should have, but I didn't. And after that,
So you had an agent abroad or something like that?
Yes. So I got an agent finally many years later, and in between when I was doing Singam in Tamil, that time I was like, a friend who was a makeup artist from the UK was like, "Oh, there's this amazing teacher," and she's like Michael Fassbender's personal acting coach. And I was like, "Can I learn?" Because I'd never actually trained under someone. So I took that time off to go there. And that's how I got an agent. And then they were like, "Go for auditions." And I was like, "Lekin set nahi hai, mera look fix." It's just that nonsense in my head. So I did a lot of auditions that I was rejected for. And the first thing I got was actually Treadstone, which was a series. And I got a small part in it. And then came this film, which was just so magical and special to me. I still feel quite emotional about it. And a friend of mine who saw the film and read the script was like, "Oh, this feels like a book, not a movie." And that's really the summary of the whole experience. It was set in another time, led by all women, 2 female producers, one of whom we lost recently. So that's also been like really emotional for all of us. A female director, writer, who have been friends since they were kids. And then I was the last woman to enter this mix. So I feel really honored because I don't like token feminism or token anything. So when they're like, "It's all women flying into space," I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, whatever," But this was a sisterhood, really. And we had tough days. We argued with each other. We solved it together. We cried together, and we made a movie that we're all really happy to have been a part of.
So was there any estrogen envy on the set?
No, not estrogen envy.
Bonding.
It was all like, no. Because everyone's periods are syncing up, and this is not an urban legend. This has happened to me again. And I think me and the director were fighting for alpha period spots. So everything was going like that. That's what I feel.
So how does it compare to all the patriarchal, toxic setups that you've
I
been?
don't think it's fair to say that setup is toxic. Because listen, we had some toxic days on this set as well,
Okay.
There's creativity, toxicity, ego, humility, creativity, intellect, experience. Everything works in a kind of like a roller coaster on a set, is what I've realized. No particular place is one. Of course, unless you're in an extremely toxic environment, that's different. It's a switch in mindset. There's something I have to say which might feel controversial to people. I actually found it harder with a female director because somewhere when you work with a male director, when you say, as a woman, I feel this would be my perspective and is this character, they do take a step back and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's not my department. Can you elaborate further? How does it feel as a woman?" Here we were having arguments as women about the kind of woman she should be. So I was like, God, if this was just a guy, it would have been one sentence, But it's different. It's a different energy. It's a different... Also, it was abroad with a crew who had...
How long did you all shoot?
27 days non-stop. So it's an
crazy,
indie film. Yeah. So I play this character, Diana, and I didn't know where Shruti went in the middle, only for like brushy, susu, khana, and sleep. The rest of the time I couldn't be Shruti. So that was an amazing experience for me because here we take long gaps between schedules, we go do other stuff, we come back. Then you have to recalibrate, So this was different.
A lot of your roles haven't challenged you so much, say, as much as, say, 3. And now, when you talk about
Comedy was very challenging for
was
me.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I find comedy
So,
really fun.
What do you discover about yourself when you act? Is there give me a specific instance where you said, oh, I'm capable of doing this also, or oh, this seems alien to me.
I keep doing that. I keep learning, and I keep learning from the experiences I've had, as well as the actors I work with. I watch them, not their performance, but because I think a lot of art comes from how you ingest things and view things when you're not on screen, because that becomes the treasure trove from which you pick out for stuff. And I think that life has made me a better actor, I hope. And then I think earlier on, I knew one thing, which is my ability to go to intensity. That's the first place I'll go to in life, in a conversation. I'm an extremely intense person, and I've been conditioned to not be that intense. So it was possibly the worst profession I could have chosen, because somewhere in my mind I said it can only come out through music. It should only come out through metal or rock. Do you know what I mean? So there were very few people I worked with, and I can say through my career, who enjoyed that intensity, recognized it, and pulled it out.
Like?
And I would say like certain directors. I don't want to name specifically, but
Why? Why won't you name?
because other directors will feel bad. Because I was like, it's here.
But somebody who's really impacted you as a director, and and impacted your craft as a director.
I mean, it's just not fair to say one. There's just been many through the course of time, and there have been situations in which they haven't got the credit of director, so I can't really say it. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, from the beginning, really, for me, especially for me, starting in Tamil and getting a role and getting a big director like Murugadoss sir believing in me, being able to carry that off, and it was a lot of pressure because I just went from this to like there. So that was a special moment. Directors believing in me. I always say this. Harish, who directed Gabbar Singh, they had this whole myth in Telugu that I was unlucky because my first two films didn't work. But they didn't realize that the first two films had the same hero. And they were like, we don't want her. And he fought, and then Pawan Kalyan sir and him were just like, no, we'll get her in. And my whole career trajectory changed. Suddenly Bombay started looking, Tamil started looking again. Do you know what I mean? So it's just the people and how they believe in you. And that translates even creatively when they believe you can carry something off. And they are collaborative, truly communicative and collaborative. It makes a difference.
Did the fact that you were Kamal Haasan's daughter, forget the nepotism debate, I'll come to that later. Did people have, were you being judged? Let's see what she is. Like, and did you yourself feel very privileged and entitled? Did you behave entitled ever?
No, because a lot of people don't know what happened prior to me joining the film industry. I was humbled by life and my parents' separation. We were not living in the big mansion, and I was, when my mom decided to leave and we moved from Chennai to Mumbai, it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't, and I'm glad for those lessons because I learned that you can go from Mercedes to local train like really quick in life, and both are a journey that you can learn from. So when I joined the movies, yes, by then again I had reconnected with Appa and I went to study music abroad, but I always had this sense of I want my own space and I want to earn my own money and I want my own independence. So I never went in with that entitled. I mean, I was a bit attitudey, but when I look back on it, it wasn't from a place of thinking I'm better. It was completely from a place of fear and thinking I'm lesser and projecting confidence or projecting these things. But inside meri fat rahi thi, like fully, all for many years, And when I became more confident in myself is actually when I became more humble and more well-mannered and I think that's for everybody, not just me. And I feel people didn't treat me like, oh, let's see what she can do, because both my parents have so much goodwill. They did want me to do well. But I think there were preconceived notions. And now, after all these years, I'm able to set the tone. That time I was too young and too stupid to understand the narrative. Yeah.
You worked with your dad in a film.
Which we didn't complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you intimidated then ki you were working with the Kamal Haasan? Like what is that process?
I don't know.
like?
I'll ask you a question. Yes, of course. There's no moment in which I'm not aware of my parents' achievement, especially Appa's achievement. Something I'm very proud of. But he didn't raise me to watch every film of his. Like, there are friends who are like, Inda padam paakliya Neil, and I've not seen it. Because he was like, no need, watch this Marlon Brando film. So it's like, he removed the fear from it. The gravitas was more of his intellect and seeing who he is as a human being, not the stardom. That he would not let us even acknowledge it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, he's so easy when you talk to him.
He's
just so easy.
He's very challam, actually. That is who he is in person. So, no, but I want to ask you, if you were on a film where your dad was acting, directing, producing, and writing, just a dad-daughter thing. Do you know what I mean?
No, I wouldn't be
It's
intimidated.
not a...
I would be intimidated because my father is also a superb writer and he usually picks flaws with my writing. So he's always, so I'm very, like I'm always walking on eggshells if he's reading an article of mine.
Yeah.
So
and it's dad, right? So it's like...
Yeah.
So it was nerve-wracking as a daughter. Yeah.
Also, you took a lot of breaks in your career.
Yeah.
You did wonderfully, especially when it comes to your music. You went to London. You did that.
That was COVID, yeah.
COVID also, and also I think you did take off periodically to study music, right?
No, I had studied music before. I took off periodically to work with a lady, an acting coach in the UK, and I also took off for a while because, and a lot of people thought, okay, over, khatam now. Nobody leaves the train. Nobody gets off this train. And those who get off don't get back on it. And I mean, I switched off. You know, I disappeared. But I needed to do that for myself. And I've never been sorry about it. It was such a big integral part of me recentering and reminding myself who I am.
Why? I mean, is it because showbiz is so much vanity and so much the external
No, it
trappings?
wasn't show business. Everything we go through is what is happening inside, how we react to the outside. So I wanted to condition myself stronger inside so that whether it's winter, summer, hail, snow, whatever, I needed to remind myself of who. I don't like to say that I love this industry. I really do.
So how long were you? So you did your own cooking, cleaning. How long were you, say, in London and
So I took, officially I took a year and a half off where I returned advances and I didn't sign anything.
My God.
Yeah.
Were you like, what went, because waiting is considered, like if you have a smashing debut film and then you don't sign anything, it's like everybody is like, waiting is a huge virtue and there's nothing wrong in it. But here, you're immediately labeled as a failure if there's waiting. Like a lot of debutants have told me, but hey, I want to do a film after 2 years. I do not want to do XYZ things.
I think people need to understand timelines. Like they'll be like, this actor, see how many films they're doing, but that actor takes 2 years. Let them. This director makes it this director takes 3 years. Everyone has their timelines. That's the thing. And that's how they find their creativity or their pacing, or different people have different ways of working. Some people prefer being insomniac to write. You know what I mean? So, I had a smashing disaster for a debut and I was waiting after that. And I felt really lucky that I got a chance again because I really was not planning to continue acting before I did my first film. I thought it's a flash in the pan and I'll do it and I'll collect enough money and move out and then go back to, rock and roll, baby.
Yeah.
Impractical, number one. Number two is my best friend Krishnan, who lives in America now, was straight up like, Macha, that was terrible. Like, you were terrible in it. And like, either you do it properly or you don't do it. And it's just such a simple philosophy. And I felt really ashamed of myself for having wasted the opportunity so many people waited for, who were passionate about cinema and acting. I was always passionate about cinema, not so much about acting. So I took it upon myself to become a success at it and become good at it. I didn't know how long it would take, And then somewhere along the way, they say true love happens as you're walking by. you know.
When you say you've studied music,
Ji.
what are the paces that you went through?
So because I sucked at mathematics and I would have never passed my board exams. And thanks to ICSE, I could replace math with music, which was just like, thank you, God. Like, I wouldn't have passed my 10th grade with the math grades I was getting. So that's when I started Hindustani Sangeet around 9th standard. I started with Suresh Wadkarji here in Mumbai. And then I had Pandit Manohar Kulkarni ji in Chennai. So I trained for 5.5 years in Hindustani Sangeet, Kirana Gharana. And then went to music school abroad, Musicians Institute in California, where I specialized in the vocals I like and songwriting and production and stuff.
Who are the musicians who inspired you? Like, everybody has like a lodestar. I love XYZ person. Was there anyone's career trajectory?
So I'll tell you, whenever I say these answers, they're like, oh, only foreign people, huh? But it
But
was.
foreign, yeah, obviously.
So for me, it was like a lot of male rock stars were my heroes because I liked their abandon. I loved Alanis Morissette, Tori Amos, Jim Morrison.
Oh, wow.
Loved them. Chris Cornell of Audioslave, and just loved metal, loved rock, loved the freedom in expressing all angst, rage, joy,
Which
pain.
a lot of your lyrics have.
Yes. And and I love finding the light in the darkest of places. So that was just my space. In India, there are few people that stand out and like made an impact when I was listening to all of this. One was, of course, Rahman sir.
Who you sung for also.
Yes. And he's also just
You want to talk about that experience?
yeah, I will. So before I get to that, was listening to the Rangila cassette on and off, A side, B side, in the ambassador that used to take us to school, the production ambassador, and it's just such a memory and it just ingrained in my head. And then Dil Se, which I still think is one of the greatest albums of all time. So then I realized this like mix, and of course, grew up around the blessings and the presence of Raja sir and singing for him, listening to his music with Appa. But for me, that big influence of what I loved, and I was like, I love this, was Rahman sir. And then listening to...
I remember you telling me a wonderful story about your childhood where Asha Bhosle and
Yeah.
R.D. Burman were
Yeah.
jamming with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been
see, I'm
very
getting goosebumps just thinking
Those
of
are
that.
the benefits of nepotism, and I will never apologize for it. That was amazing. And then I remember when I was very young, because I was always told I had a strong voice, I remember listening to Sunidhi Chauhan sing Mast, and I was just like, oh my God, like her voice was just like electrifying. So these are the two things that really influenced me growing up over here.
You also sang for Raja sir, no?
That was my first ever song in life.
Can you recall that experience?
Potri Paderi Panni from Devar Magan, which got remade as Virasa. So, sorry, Anil sir. So, that was, and I was really young. I didn't even understand what was going on. And then, of course, I had the great honor of singing for Raja sir many times after that, Hey Ram as well. So, creativity has this fluidity, Yeah.
You were talking about your Rahman experience.
So, I always feel like when I really love somebody's art, I don't want to meet them and I don't want to get to... Like, I met Tori Amos in London and I started crying, like properly fangirled. And my friend was like, oh, she's an actress. No, I'm a musician first, because I just didn't want her to not know I'm a musician. And I started like shaking and crying because she's been a part of who I am as a musician. And I got her email ID and I just never mailed her because I just didn't want to spoil where I keep her. So when I met Rahman, I was super worried about that. But he has turned out to be not very human, actually, just really evolved and kind and wonderful. So that is my favorite thing about Rahman sir, is that I grew up loving his music and then got to meet a person who's truly evolved, and then you understand why the music is like that, Yeah.
Amazing. Speaking of your father, I have to ask you about the superstar Rajinikanth, who you're working with I mean, your father's told me so many stories about him and Rajinikanth in their salad days doing the most wildest things. But what was it like working with
So now
Rajinikanth,
I
sir?
got the other perspective. I got Rajni sir stories, you know. I was hearing one side for like 30 plus years, and now I got to see the other perspective. So a lot of people thought that the families were really close, but we really weren't. And you know, like
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me, my friends are still like from Abacus, my school, and it was just Lakshmi auntie and, you know, the Jayashri auntie and those aunties. And of course, we met film kids. The closest film family to us was Imran's family, Amir uncle, Nuzhat auntie, and that family. It wasn't so much the southern film
In
families.
fact, Imran was just talking about such wonderful memories. I'll tell you later what he
Yeah.
said this, but he was just saying like she's like my sister. We had
He is
such,
my Rakhi brother, which is
you
so
know?
creepy that he's my first hero. But he is my brother, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we didn't really have that interaction growing up. I think I must have met him as a hello, hi, maybe 3 times, 4 times in my entire life. So I had no idea who this person behind the persona was. To me, he was, you know, Rajini sir, like to everybody else. But it was really wonderful getting to know him and working with him. He's and he's so different to Papa. So for me, it was
Like,
just,
what is the stark difference between
I
them?
mean, so I'm not going in with that starstruckness because I've grown up with Papa. So there's a little neutrality to it. And I, in general, love watching people and kind of being like, I wonder what that's about. You cannot figure him out. That's the best part about him. He's a mix of so many great qualities, you know. He's extremely humble, but he's extremely sharp and like notices everything. Seems very genuinely non-judgmental, but is very clear about how he does. It's just an amalgamation of qualities and just very kind to everyone on the set. Just a pleasure working with him. And I'm not just saying it as a plug for Coolie. Genuinely so sweet.
What
to
has he
everyone.
told you stories about your dad?
Very
which,
sweet.
Which are the non-controversial?
Oh my God, it was really sweet. He told me once that, thank God for your dad, otherwise I would have like hurt myself really badly. Your dad was passing by once and he was like, what are you doing up there? And he's like, I'm supposed to jump. He's like, you can't jump without a mattress. And it was these sweet things. He's like, he went and brought the mattress and then told me how to jump. So I'm always thankful to Kamal for that. You know, and that was like school stories. Do you know what I mean? It was so sweet. He had such love and like, it was like listening to school kids talk. And I guess it was school for them.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, talking about Rajni sir, I have to also talk about your father's other wonderful colleagues, Sridevi,
Yes.
Dimple.
Oh, Dimple ma'am.
I want to know like some stories that, you know, I remember you hung out with, you worked with Sriji in a movie and you
Yes,
hung
we
out.
did. We hung out on set.
Yeah. So tell me
Yeah.
about that. Tell me about
I
that
mean,
experience.
God bless her, rest in peace. She was peculiarly innocent till the very end. You know, I just found her to be so childlike in a real way. Not childlike in, I don't know how to explain it, like pure inside, something. The way she would talk about stories and then Papa said, send her this picture, she'll love it. So he sends me a picture of her mum and Appa, and she's sitting on her mum's lap. In 2 seconds, makeup for Pillai was really elaborate and big. She was just in tears and she's like, can I talk to him? I want to talk about this memory. And I just remember that moment. Of course, the rest of the time she was just commanding and incredibly powerful on set. Like the queen has entered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of women doing this queen energy and I'm like, no, honey, no. no. That be the queen, you know? And that quiet, strong grace and humility, just incredible.
Incredible.
Yes.
And Dimple,
Man, I just love that woman.
she's amazing.
I love her. I love her so much. We met during Welcome Back. That film took like 3 years to make. And I'm very thankful because I got to be really close to her because of it. She's amazingly evolved, fun.
Did she tell you while shooting Vikram with your father?
I mean, she would tell me all these stories and she'd be like, I found your father so handsome, but he was only looking at Sarika. when they hang out, they're like college friends. And she like totally pulls his leg. She's so respectful of him, but she's also that one's like, you know, like she's not afraid. She's that person. But she's so emotionally evolved with all this fun and crazy Dimple Ma'am energy. her ability to be like, yep, this is life, and go through the storm, go through it. Like, and she comes out saying, but this is my new hairdo. Like, she's amazing.
How do you navigate spaces, like say, I mean, sexist spaces, or if you're not on the same page as the director, as an actor, like a lot of actors are filled with a certain amount of self-loathing, and when you have that and you have somebody who's trying to break into your vulnerability, or at that moment there's a certain they try to railroad you, how do you navigate those spaces?
I feel that when I'm given a character, I feel a responsibility towards it, even if it's whatever you call commercial, non-commercial, whatever. I say, okay, this is mine now. And when I have it in my hand, it's mine now. You can tell me, oh, is that your baby? Okay, can your baby wear a blue dress? Can your baby sit on the table? Yeah, sure, the baby can, but it's my baby. Do you know what I mean? So when you have that protective, because it's your love for your craft, and you're responsible for this person that doesn't exist, it doesn't matter who's trying to railroad it. It's very internal, and it's eventually like this little love story you create with this character, and the only people it's for is the audience. And therefore that level of almost coldness makes me a good actor to a director, because I'm able to just take the instruction, because obviously they have the vision of what they want. And they have the bird's eye view and the large landscape view of everything. So I respect that no matter what. If I feel the only times I've had issues is if I find something extremely vulgar or offensive, or like making fun of things like mental disability or someone being fat, or do you know what I mean? Those things, I've had a discussion saying, can you just pass this line to someone? You want it in your movie? That's fine. But like, I just feel really awkward saying it. Or sometimes people would try to cash in on the dad angle for a comedy scene, saying, I just wouldn't want to participate in that. And then I would kind of be like, really not comfortable. But that's happened very, very rarely, to be honest. Yeah.
You mentioned this nepotism bit. Like right now, it's a huge conversation. But I mean, if you see the Telugu industry, it's a mom and pop store. If you see that, whereas I don't see it so much in Malayalam, I don't see it so much in Tamil Nadu. But leave all that aside. I'm saying, did you ever face any kind of prejudice because, oh, she's Kamal Haasan's daughter, and so, things come more easily
I don't
to
want
her?
to call it the word prejudice, because it's a fair assessment. Things did come easily. Doors did open. Staying here was my job, and that I'm proud of. But if I
But
say,
you're saying doors opened easily for you?
yes, definitely. In the how did I even get luck? Because Imran was my Rakhi brother.
Or you were staying at his house. That's how you got luck.
Well, that time I wasn't actually. I'd come back from America.
Okay.
And we had met, and then he kind of was like, read the script properly. I was like, okay. Like everything was just, I'll do this. That is ridiculous. I understand how ridiculous it is today. Do you know what I mean? I had the experience before that of being a costume assistant, working on Per Day Better. I had the discipline of singing in Juhu Hotel while people are eating food to make extra money. I've done all of that. But the movies just have this magical quality of taking over. So it can corrupt discipline. That's one thing I've seen happen, that it can corrupt discipline. Physical, emotional, and mental. This place can corrupt discipline easily because it just feels amazing and you're important, and So yeah, of course things opened. Of course people were willing to give me a chance because I was so-and-so's daughter. And then when you fail, you fall really hard, and then you pick yourself up, and then you find yourself somewhere in that.
Because I remember the reviews were also very awful, and especially your first 2-3 films. And then
Oh my
suddenly,
God.
That's crazy.
Of course, I also have to say, yeah, I sucked in the movie, sure, but there's certainly better vocabulary and better writing, hopefully, to put it across. Because we were living in a time, if you remember, where if you put those articles out today, they would be cancelled, for sure. They were just straight up offensive, and not just to me, to the men. It was just fun to poop on people, It was a different time. And I'm glad that sensitivity is coming. Not for me, for everyone.
Without getting into the details, your mother and father had a very public fallout, and your mother has often spoken about, as a child actor, she never really enjoyed the process. Your father, on
Loved
the
it.
other hand, loved it.
Loved it.
Absolutely. So this schizophrenia have you all had those kind of discussions about
I think
her?
it was just different. Like I said, we're all modeled by our childhood a lot. Like our future is very much in the hands of the past. And I feel for mum, there was always joy and like cinema was joy, but the experience was traumatic for her. Very.
A lot of 90% of child stars.
But dad just, he was like,
I think
was
the
joy.
women have it more tougher.
No, I think also that dad's family was very, very specific about how to handle that situation. And he had my dear uncle who passed away, Chandra Haasan. So he was there with him on set every day. And I think he also taught him the lessons as an older brother that have made him the artist he is today, about discipline and memory and recollection of people on set. Like these small, small things dad will tell me. And I was like, gosh, he was preparing you to be a star. You know what I mean? So not just an actor. So their experiences were wildly different. I think dad's experience has always been about joy and joy and joy. So coming to this topic, I had a friend in the UK who said, I said, I do understand when people say nepotism. He's like, but he was an actor from a non-acting background. And he said, for you, it's just a hop, skip and jump into it because it's what you saw your parents doing. And therefore you come in with a preordained confidence that's instilled. And so if I got into real estate like my dad, I would hop, skip and jump into that. The same way, if you wanted to be the best real estate agent, you'd have to cross so many more miles to get there. And that's how I feel about getting into acting. I have to cross this road, the bridge, the ocean, and then there. Because from where I am to where it is a long journey. So he said, it's just, it feels like a more natural environment to you because you've seen it. And I think that's why Papa becoming or mum becoming who they are later on is they saw it. It's in their understanding of the environment when they were very young. Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice both your mom and dad have given you separately?
My dad keeps saying no pain, no gain, no pain, no gain. And it's true. It is true. In all walks of life, professionally, personally, psychologically, you have to go through it and come out the other side. Yeah.
I've seen some of the craziest films of your mom too.
Yeah, I know.
And
I was like, she did this movie?
Yeah.
And I'll show it to her and she'll be like, huh. Mom, I think more than the things she says is I've learned from her perseverance and not having timelines, doing things your own way. She's been really good at that. Yeah. And she'll always say, Hamesha mehnat karo beta, which is also the same thing. No pain, no gain.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically the same advice.
How was Akshara affected by all this? Having 3 huge stars in the house.
I mean, it would not be who of me to answer that question. It's Akshu's question to answer.
But what I mean is, what is the kind of sibling dynamics you had? Because she also was in the movies and she was doing, films and all of that.
Yeah.
So what is the kind of advice were you protective?
No. I mean, growing up, because my parents were really busy, more than a younger sister, she felt more like a kid to me. So I've always felt like my first job as a parent was with Akshu because, that's what happens to the older sibling when parents are busy. You take on that role really early on. And so it was my nature to kind of be like a mini mom, to her. And I think as she grew up, she was just like, enough, which happens. And so it was a transition for me as well to learn how to communicate with her as an adult, because she's not my baby or a baby. So that was a learning curve for me. I don't advise her much because I think she has a very different approach to me in everything in general. So I don't think my advice would apply. It would probably seem boring. Yeah.
Would you change anything about yourself if given a chance? If I had to ask you to redo something about your life, is there something that you would redo? Like what?
I've hurt some people and I wish I didn't do that. Yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing. Everything else I have like zero regrets. I'm like, okay, I was a clown, it's fine. Just some people that were very valuable to me, I hurt them by mistake. And I always now spend my time saying sorry for it.
Have you reached out to
Yeah,
them?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I couldn't otherwise, no.
live with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, since you talk about people, I have to talk to you about relationships. So my question to you is, how do these relationships sort of alter or enhance your personality in any way?
Yeah, I wish that I wasn't so influenced by my relationships. And it's something about me that hasn't changed in years. When I go in, I go all in. And when I leave, I go all out and run away, you know?
But is it like, are there your ex leaves you with ex feelings? Do those feelings come rushing back
No.
periodically? Do
No.
you make a clean break?
Yes.
From here?
Yes. Yes. We all have that one dangerous ex, you know, but apart from that, I really do close the chapter with no regrets. I try my best. And that's why when people say, oh, which number boyfriend is this? You're not understanding that for you it's a number. For me, it's a number of times I failed at having the love I want. So I don't feel bad about it, but I feel a little bad about it. Of course, I'm human. But I don't blame the person because I don't think we're wired to change at the same time in the same way with the people that we're with. It's just not possible. So I kind of try to learn. Nothing has taught me more than the relationships I've been in about myself, because that is the closest you get after your parents, right?
No, but you are so beautiful and you are so talented and sexy. So, are they intimidated being with the most successful person?
No. That's not who I am in person.
No, that
in my
you're not.
private life, I'm very, very different. And in a relationship, I'm very, very different.
That I've seen. You're caring, you're compassionate.
I'm very like,
yeah. But they never got intimidated by you.
I don't think so. And if they did, they didn't have a conversation. They just did like all this messed up stuff to like compensate for themselves.
Like if
I'm a major communicator. I'm like, let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's have those hard conversations.
if you had to revisit a relationship, what would you have done differently?
Left earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides that,
No, of course. I mean, I don't have regrets in relationships. I've been really, really good when I've chosen to be loyal and faithful and committed in a relationship. I have been good. And if I've not chosen that, I don't owe people answers. Yeah.
how? So you were talking about mental health, and it's
Yes.
great you've normalized stuff like, and it's good. A lot of more actors, whether it is Alia, whether it is Deepika, everybody's talking
Because
about
everyone has a brain.
brain. But how did you work through? Was there any taboo when you realized? Like I remember you talking to me about your anxieties.
Yes.
And
I basically was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. Yeah, basically.
so how did you work around it? And does it sort of aggravate in really, like all of you work 18 hours? Does it aggravate in stressful
Yes.
situations?
Yes.
And how do you work around it?
Well, I first tell my manager that I have this problem, so she navigates it. My manager has been very kind, Kavya, because she's with me every day and she knows past hour 7 that my anxiety kicks in, and I can't obviously do it on set in front of everybody, so it happens in the vanity van. So even Noori, who you met today, has been with me since my second film. They know when Anxiety Shruti comes out, they either give me food or something fizzy. Like,
So would you have to?
no, but I have toolkits that I have.
Yeah, like medication or therapy.
So I decided not. I mean, there are people I know who are on medication. It wasn't for me because I felt it affected certain different things for me which weren't working. And so I decided to really focus intensely on talk therapy, which is why I also took that year off. And I also had a therapist in the UK who didn't know anything about my family or me. So that's the first time I actually honestly spoke about my life. And that's where the healing began, because I had a lot of things I never shared with anybody, and I mean anyone. So it was a great relief and a first step. And then we kind of came up with a plan of action of how to go about certain things, and I've had panic attacks. And I've had them with people. I actually prefer having panic attacks alone because I can handle it myself. It's very embarrassing in front of people because they think you're dying and they don't know what to do. But it was part of it, and I decided that you're always in recovery when it comes to your past or an addiction or anything. So it's not to say I'm fine now because I went for therapy. It's a process, and things will trigger it. And when it comes back, I think strength comes from developing a toolkit and understanding your vulnerabilities versus trying to overcome them. So when I found the benefits of mental health and speaking about it and addressing it, I just felt like I have to share it and talk about that because there is a stigma around it. People is like, no need for therapy, it's not that bad. No, it's not about it being that bad. It doesn't mean your mummy and your friend or your brother or your boyfriend or your wife doesn't love you. They're not equipped to assess this conversation in a way that can help with growth. So that was a big part of me healing, speaking about it as well, because something I was very ashamed of. How are other people able to handle this so well and I'm not? And it made me feel very out of place and misunderstood and odd and like,
do your co-stars and directors and all create that safe space for you when they don't?
No.
Like,
and it's not their job to create that safe space for me. It's my job to manage it. Yeah. Some people do, and when they do, I'm very, very thankful for it. But if they don't, it's not their job to create a safe space for me. It's our job to make a movie well. That's it. Yeah. So the only time I've gone up to a director once in a while is because I suffer from extremely bad period cramps. Say, இன்னைக்கு நான் பல்டி அடிக்க முடியாது physically, you know. But other than that, no. It's not anybody's business and it shouldn't be. We come there to... Everyone comes on a movie set with so much struggle and baggage and what they're going through, and somebody has died in their family or someone is unwell or they don't have enough money, or everyone comes with baggage and everyone makes a movie with the best of their intentions, and that is the magic of this movie business, really. Yeah. There isn't a day that everyone's happy on set. No chance. Someone has something going on. From the lightman to the producer whose curtain is not done, to the actress to actors, everyone has some baggage. So I don't think it's their responsibility. I think it's beautiful that we can go to a space where we can forget that for 5 seconds and create something that helps people forget things for 2 hours. Yeah.
Wow. I hope you continue to be your lovely, authentic self and continue to be the wonderful person.
I hope you continue to send me creepy, weird messages that I've been getting for what? How many years now? 15 years now?
But I won't let you go. First, there is an audience which wants to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
And I won't let you go without singing one of your favorite numbers.
My throat is gar-gar today.
But whatever. I mean,
fine. Which song?
Whichever.
You tell na.
One fantastic Rahman sir song or a Raja sir song, or from your own film, some song.
Rahman sir song that I like. Gosh. Oh my God, I used to love this song and I don't know if people remember it. It goes, मेरे दिल का वो शहज़ादा, मेरा दिलबर, मेरा प्रेमी, and it goes, ow! Yeah, I used to love that Rahman song.
Continue.
I don't know the rest of the lyrics. Yeah.
Chalo, thank you for being part of this conversation. I love you. And here's an audience.
Hi Shruti, who is your 4 AM friend in the industry?
In the industry?
Yes, industry.
Niranjan Iyengar. Yeah, he is. He's still in the industry because there's others who are not in the industry. Yeah, Niranjan, Ninjo. Yeah.
Hi Shruti, I have to ask about your father's role in Kalki and if you know any updates about Kalki 2.
No, you will have to ask Mr. Haasan about that. I'm always proud of the work he does, and I'm very proud of how he just constantly challenges himself, even now. Tries new things, does things nobody expects, and that's just the magic of him. So I'm super proud.
Hi Shruti, I love your black ensembles. When did your goth awakening happen?
My goth awakening. I like that. So my love for black really started from understanding that those who felt out of place or those who wanted to belong in a group that was not everyone else wore black. And So that was a trigger in my head. And then I discovered metal around 12 or 13 years old. And then by the time I was like 14, 15, I started going more into subgenres and like how people were dressing, as well as I was a huge fan of Edgar Allan Poe and Franz Kafka. So everything about me was just, and my dream husband was, Count Dracula. So it was just all in that zone. Yeah.
Your favorite metal band?
Meshuggah. Yeah. They're a Swedish metal band. They're my favorite. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Shruti. You spoke at length about anxiety and depression. I would like to ask you, what would you tell people who haven't sought help for the same and are going through it?
I do feel that the first step is acknowledging that it's not a weakness. It's a part of, sometimes it's chemical, sometimes it's triggered by memories. There's so many variables to this. But the first step is to talk about it and not feel ashamed about it, and to seek help, and and if you can't, there are many resources. And I want people to understand that there's just a million resources, especially in the online world that we live in today, where if you feel that the people around you won't understand it, if you understand and recognize it in yourself, that's practically half the battle won first. And then to be able to do it for yourself. So you don't owe people this explanation of why you want to go to therapy or talk to somebody. So if your pain was personal, so can your healing be, and the judgment is not for some. I think judgment and stigma is what keeps people away from it. So I would say just speak about it first. Yeah. And the more we speak about it, then people can just, STF you or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, baby.